Welcome back, tribe. I have a video here. It's from Soft White Underbelly, but it's got Orion and Sadia. Her takes kind of suck. His is always good. Listen, women giving advice on this almost never ends well, ever. There's very few women, and they're usually really old. They're like grandma age. They're out the game. The competition is dead. They have their own large families, and that kind of wisdom gained, they usually give good advice because they've been in marriages for decades. They've raised kids successfully. So they have a word in edgewise of what to say, and it holds some authority. But most of these creators I've seen, they'll start off, they'll have really good points, just regurgitating what men are doing or saying at least. But it just shit falls off the cliff when they start getting pressed.
Certainly.
So here they're talking about Western men's lack of masculinity.
The toxic man should probably be more masculine than the nice guy. It would be hard to be toxic and more effeminate and get that kind of reaction out of women. I think that the reason why women tend to fall in love with toxic men has to do with the fundamental feminine romantic fantasy, which I think is Beauty and the Beast, where it's like most people misinterpret that fairy tale and they think that Belle, the girl, can see like past the beastly exterior and she loves him despite being an animal. No. She loves him because he's an animal. And this gives her an opportunity to get to conquer on some level. Conquering the beast is the female equivalent of just like sexual conquest in men. And so there's this sort of emotional challenge is very attractive to a lot of women. And they think, I can fix him through my patience, through my love, through my loyalty. I can show him that not all women are like this and that there's more to life. And at the end, the fantasy, of course, is he transforms into the prince, the love worked, and they can live happily ever after. Of course, if Belle fell in love with the beast, what the fuck is she going to do with the gentleman? How long is that attraction going to last, right?
Women seem to want a bad boy who's good to them. And men seem to want a good girl who's only bad with
Yeah, exactly that. But I think what it is that women, it's not necessarily that they need something bad, but they need something fearless. They just need a fearlessness. And what's happened with nice guys is they are, one of the traits I see across the board, particularly with men and Western men in particular, they're terrified of women. They are absolutely terrified, and rightly so, I understand, because the movement has made
They're
it that
not that scary.
I think, but maybe I deal with the subsect of men that have this kind of...
You're spending too much time in Dubai.
Yeah, I know. They're so terrified to tell their woman that they need more sex. They'll go years without having sex with their wife. They're just scared to say it. They're terrified to tell their woman that she's gained a bit of weight. They're terrified to tell their woman that he might have to, still pay his ex-wife alimony.
That'll fly in Dubai?
I think what it is, they don't have a fear of their women as much. Not so much Dubai because it's so filled with expats, but I think in Eastern culture in general, they don't fear their women as much. They genuinely don't fear their women as much. If anything, the women fear them a little bit. Whereas in Western culture, they submit and fear their women a lot more. And what Western women don't realize is that when they can incite fear in their man, they lose respect for him. I think the part of them likes that because you'll see these TikToks where the girls are like, oh, you need a man that's like a golden retriever. You be the black cat and he should love you so much more. At the moment they get that in that man, part of him for being that golden retriever is that fear of losing her, that fear of her. It's unattractive. And she slowly starts to lose respect. Now, this is not all women. Some women really appreciate that. But majority of the women, they find that emasculating.
And I do think that it's easier for men not to fear having those conversations with women when they don't have a scarcity mentality, when they have consistent success with women, and they might have some optionality even simultaneous with that relationship. It's very easy to be able to tell the truth and to speak directly about your needs and wants and to be outcome independent when you know that you can be okay either way.
Yeah.
But for so many men, this woman might be the only woman who showed him interest in years. And it took him how many years of loneliness and struggle in order to get this. So he's just like running, trying to prevent loss more than anything else.
But you see where that stems from? Inexperienced men, where you've worked so hard, you're afraid to lose the woman. So at the end of the day, when you hear stories about men getting screwed over by women, when you hear the whole heartbeat tale and she transformed and sex dried up and all this shit, underlying all those complaints is that the guy allowed that to happen because he wouldn't leave. He didn't value himself enough. He thought he couldn't do better. Understand? Women have almost zero power over you unless you let them. It's just men have this propensity to suffer for a long time because it's the romantic nature of men to see the light at the end of the tunnel, to play Mr. Fix-It, to think that it can change. It's not women that do that. It's actually men. Like at the end of the day, a man doesn't need much but a cardboard box. Like you really want to burn your life down? Like if this shit doesn't work, if she takes your assets, all that, fuck it, I'll start over. Anything's better than being in a dead bedroom or an abusive relationship where she's psychologically torturing the guy or all this stuff just to get some crumbs of some pussy sometime once a year. Fuck that, bro. Burn it. Burn the bridge down. Walk away. There's so many men. They'll tell you in the comment section, I was that guy. I waited for years. I lost decades in my marriage, unhappy. One day I decided burn it all down. Fuck it. I walked away and I couldn't be happier today. It was the best decision I ever made. And they ended up finding other women. If they did, great. If they didn't, doesn't matter. They have their solitary, peaceful lives and they're happy. Their solitude is what they cherish now. They're able to go fishing when they want. Nobody's nagging at them, yelling at them, expectations for them to do everything. Watch. They're probably here in the comment section. If you're one of these guys, let them know, dude, that walking away from a woman is not the worst thing ever that could happen to you. But guys catastrophize it and think, my life's over. I can't do this. Bro, yes, you fucking can. The moment you think you can't walk away is when she has your balls on a fucking vice grip.
Do you think there's a way of men achieving that mentality without having their options open with other women and stuff? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, but it's tough. Like, I think to have that kind of confidence without actually exercising optionality, the guy has to be famous.
Right. Okay. So he has to have something to him.
He needs to be, because it's only through fame that a man approaches being a beautiful woman, in the sense that even if the famous man is perfectly loyal to his partner, he knows that there's millions of women who are watching him who would be receptive to messaging. He could spin something up very quickly, even if he doesn't have anything actually warmed up. Just like a woman, she always has orbiters around her, even if she's not actively cultivating that kind of attention. Even if she's perfectly loyal, she can't help it. She attracts that kind of attention. And if things go sideways, it won't be long before she has an alternative that suits her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it does stem from having options, but I think it should stem, I think as a man, you should grow up with a mentality and be...
You see, this is the part where she loses me. He gave you a perfect example and an explanation, and then she goes, but I think as a man, I think you don't know what a man thinks. You don't know what it's like living in a man's body in the terms of optionality with dating. You don't know what it's like put on a suit and try to be a man and get sexual attraction cues from other women. It doesn't happen. The average man gets no attention. You don't know what it's like to go your entire life where not a single fucking woman has ever complimented your looks. Not a single woman has showed you any cues for attention. Not a single woman responds to your messages. You're invisible. She can't fathom that kind of, so this is what I don't like about these kinds of women talking about this shit is like, we had a woman try, it was that lesbian chick, I forgot what her name was. You guys know what I'm talking about. She did a documentary where she put on an outfit. She was a lesbian chick, a bit butch on the butch side. She put an outfit on to live in the shoes of a man, and that shit failed horrendously. She started understanding how much harder life is and dating in general for men. Women have this shit on easy mode. They can't fathom this, dude. A woman like her can't. She walks anywhere, gets attention, and married a wealthy dude, and lives in Dubai. And like, life is great. Cool. Just like Orion said, though, the only way a man approaches the kind of easy mode a woman has is through fame or extreme wealth. And that, again, that's what it takes to just approach the optionality of women. Even a rich man, well, depending how rich and depending just how famous, if you're like well-known in every single country ever, yeah, you can have the same level of a woman.
Be raised with the mentality that women actually need confrontation. It's not something you should be avoiding. And I find that men that don't grow up with their fathers and don't grow up with a lot of men around them believe that women should be babysat. Their emotions should be babysat. You should tiptoe around them, make them feel safe all the time, and they agree with them all the time. When really, when you grow up with both mom and dad, you realize that part of the success of their relationship is they like some back and forth. The
outcomes are irrelevant when you're raised by a father only. The problem is there's no fathers in the home. And even when there is a father in the home, if he's very feminine, the issue she's talking about still happens. They still are whipped. They're still walked all over. They still don't respect themselves because they saw their father basically being whipped and disrespected in the same sense. This issue stems from social conditioning of how women should treat men. and the conversation we're having about what it takes to keep a man, which is zero. We're not having a conversation about what a real woman is, how a woman should behave, and what a woman brings to the table, right? And what a woman should do to keep a man interested. This conversation is not happening. It's always how a man should behave, what a man should do, and what a real man is coming from the women's side. Women are trying to define what masculinity is, and at very best, they're just defining either a simp or a super toxic man. But they don't know what it takes to get a real man because they're rare. They haven't met any. So when a man is explaining the kind of women they want, women aren't listening at all. The conversation doesn't exist. Even on the women's side, to women. How many women channels, women creators are there talking about what a real woman is, how a woman keeps a man, how a woman should behave to a man? It's wild. The answer is, I don't fucking know any.
You need some confrontation.
I'm sure they're out there, probably, but they're not getting views like the toxic queens, like the gooch munchers we covered in the last episode.
From their husband. If they completely run all over him, the relationship won't work and you won't be modeled masculinity. So I think that it extends a little bit earlier. If you just simply understand that the things that your mum is teaching you is not what women find attractive. Your mum might want you to be obedient. Your mum might want you to be placid. Your mum might want you to agree with her in everything she says. But your wife wants confrontation. She wants to see your own identity. She wants to know your own opinions. Only then she can actually attach to something rather than a shadow of her own opinions. And because so many men are now being raised without their fathers, and so many men have a disdain towards their fathers, they are developing a mindset of becoming an obedient son and applying that into relationships, and it's just simply unattractive.
What are your thoughts on the feminization of men?
It's really worrying, particularly with the low testosterone. It's really, really worrying because now women are left with the options of, masculine men, but they're almost toxic and narcissistic, or with a feminized man. And any woman will choose narcissist over feminized, always. So you're left with women who are quite scarred because that's their optional, their two options. So the feminization of men, I don't even think they realize they're so feminized. I think they think they're doing the right things. So they will learn, one of the things that a lot of men I know, they will meet a woman who's treating them badly and they say, I know it's because of her trauma, she's an avoidant attachment, she was raised this, and they want to explain emotionally about what she's going through and try and be there for her emotionally. Women don't want you to understand them. They want to know what you're going to do about it. Yes, okay, I've traumatized. I, cheated on you. Fine, you understand my trauma came from my childhood because I was deprived, blah, blah, blah. Great. What are you going to do about it? Now, just over understanding her is feminization. It's not actually attractive. We want to know what you're going to do about it. We want decision makers, not therapists. No offense, we are therapists, so I'm not saying it, but in your relationship, we don't want that. That's what our sisters are for. That's what our parents are for. You are there to say, I get that you've got trauma. I know that you've got daddy issues. Not my problem. You're going to act like this? Bye. That's what we're more attracted to than somebody who sits down and does a love language quiz with you. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I made an episode about that called The Trap of Understanding. Not everyone should be in a relationship. So even if we take that on good faith at face value, let's say she does have some trauma, she does have some attachment issues that she needs to work through. That doesn't necessarily mean that you as a man have to fall on your sword and put up with bad behavior. It's like she might have an injury, just like in sports. She's going to do some PT on the side. We're going to keep her off the field. And hopefully in 6 and 8 months, we can get her back in the game. But no one has a right to play despite their injuries. That's just going to hurt more people that way.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, and same for men. Some women will say, I know he's been traumatized and that's why he keeps, cheating on me and he keeps doing this and he's got this drug addiction, but I know it's because of his trauma. So what are you going to do about it? People only respect your decisions, not your thoughts. So what are you going to do about it? It's actually telling them what they want to hear or believing what they tell you. If you work with a lot of women and believe them, automatically you're going to think this is the reason. But the key is, and I say this with men and women, my therapy as a therapist, you should treat every client that comes to you as a liar. They're lying. They're lying the whole thing. And your job as a good therapist is to spot that lie because they're lying to themselves. That's how they got here. And if you as a therapist, somebody comes in and says, my ex is a narcissist, I'll say, well, you chose them. Let's talk about you. Let's see what you're doing wrong. Or they'll say to me, oh, I just don't have a sex drive for my wife. I don't desire her. I'm like, but tell me what's going on behind the scenes. Are you watching too much porn? Are you cheating on her? I don't believe what you're telling me right now. The key is to understand people lie to themselves. So when they go to therapy, when they go to personal training, when they go to doctors, they'll lie to you. And as a good therapist, you should be able to spot that. The coaches and the people that go wrong are the ones that believe the feedback that they're getting from their clients and using that to coach. When really we need to dig a bit deeper and realize that sometimes what they're saying and what they're doing are not aligned.
Yeah, I take everything that someone tells me with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
maybe come out and say everything they're saying is a lie. I'm expecting that. I'm just sort of like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We'll see. Because I found that if you come out of the gate and say, I don't believe you, you're full of shit, you get a lot of resistance. They get offended. And,
they don't come back as much.
But I certainly just I hold it not as the pure, unvarnished truth and look for ways to kind of get in to show themselves to themselves in a more productive manner.
You guys both see clients on your own, right?
Sounds like
it's part of both of your lives. What are the cases you see a lot of in your practice?
Mine is the growing trend of men paying for sex. That is kind of the growing trend of like the porn addiction, which then escalates into paying for sex. And then, I'll say that again. It starts with a porn addiction, which then turns into erectile dysfunction. That erectile dysfunction makes them feel uncomfortable about having sex with real women that are not paid for their time because they feel like they might be judged or they feel like she won't appreciate it. So through that fear of rejection, they then turn to escorts. And escorts don't judge you when you can't get it up. They don't judge you when you can't ejaculate. They don't judge the size of it. But you are paying for their lack of judgment, but you're also paying for your ability to violate because you're witnessing that too much in porn, and that's what you see as associated with sex. So I found, maybe because of the content I produce, that tends to be the growing trend in the men that I work with. And this is when I say to you, I believe they're lying. They'll come to me and say, oh, I just use escorts because it's quick and easy. No, but now you're madly in love. And then the line that they always say is, I'm paying her to leave. I'm like, yeah, but you're now on a call because you've just got engaged to an escort. So when did you pay her to leave? So they are lying to themselves, because the dream of every man that pays for sex is for one day for her to say, this one's on me. You don't have to pay a penny. If you were truly paying for her to leave, that wouldn't feel so good when she makes it free. So you're actually paying for an approval of a woman that you couldn't access in the real world. And the moment they're more honest with themselves about that.
That's deep, because you see those comments all the time. And there's this bifurcation in them where a man says, I'm just paying for her to leave, but it'll be those same guys that you see. And we see them on videos all the time that fall in love with bar girls, fall in love with professionals. I have mine on retainer. And what these guys don't tell you is a lot of them do get feelings. There are a few guys that are seriously zero fucks given, pay to play 100% all the way. But what they don't tell you is this psychological portion of what he's saying, paying for a woman's attention that you couldn't access, her love and attention that you can't access in the real world for whatever fucked up reason in your head. I believe that's why I come out morally against it, because you have to be in a pretty fallen state to have to exchange money for a stick in your wiener in a wet hole. It's like the equivalent of like a chick spreading her legs, munching on some gooch for a bag, right? It's just a different on sides of the same coin in terms of degeneracy. But listen, you can make it's an honest transaction, bro. We're both adults. Let me live my life. Do your thing. Go ahead, bro. I'm not policing you. I'm just saying that's a fallen state behavior. That's all. So you're free to do whatever you want. But the funny flip side of that is, how the fuck do you fall in love with a professional like that? These dudes develop feelings. That's because you're lonely, because you're craving intimacy, and you feel like you can't get it with a real woman. So you have to pay for entry to one day, maybe, hopefully, be different if she falls in love with you. That shit's wild.
The more we can actually work on it and change the system. But this is an area that they just refuse.
Kind of like, on the flip side for the women's side, they openly allow themselves to get pumped and dumped, violated, absolutely played by these high status men. And you know why? Because they hope that spreading their legs, they'll keep them. They hope that one day, besides spreading legs, they can show what a good girl they are, what an amazing woman they are, and the guy decides to keep them around. We as men look at that situation of the chicks that spread their legs and get pumped and dumped by these like top 1% dudes, rich businessmen, all that. And we can easily just say right off the rip, bro, you're getting used, lady. That guy's just pumping and dumping. That's an easy layup. He's just having a ton of sex with no need to commit. But on the flip side, though, that's the same thing that these men are doing that are paying for sex. They keep saying, well, I'm just paying her to leave. But it's the same fallen state behavior, because a lot of these guys get attached. How many stories do you hear? That's why they make videos, for example, in Thailand, don't fall in love with the bar chick. Whatever you do, don't invite the bar chicks over to your house. Don't fall in love with those Filipinas that are blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. Because the first thing that guys do after paying for it, they start to act like they got a girlfriend all of a sudden. They start buying these chicks extra shit, paying for their time above and beyond, trying to get them to live with them. It's the same thing. Bro, it's the same thing. It's like, but it's hard for a man to look in the mirror and admit that kind of shit.
To be honest about.
That's a very specific problem, Sasha.
Yes, it is.
Like I worked with some guys on porn addiction and the subsequent ED that can result. But, it's usually a guy every month or two has fallen in love with an escort. It's actually a fairly common problem. I made some episodes about that.
Yeah.
But I think mostly the guys I talk to are having trouble finding a woman that they want to have a long-term relationship with, or more commonly now, older guys who are having marital difficulties and wanting to see if they could potentially turn things around.
I personally struggle to know how to help people who just can't get their foot in the door with women, because sometimes I meet these guys are actually great. They've got a good job. There's nothing wrong with them on paper. There's actually really good guys. It's just that they just for some reason can't get their foot in the door with a lot of women. So I struggle to help those men, if I'm being totally honest. I don't know. What do you usually tell these men?
Well, I tell them the part that women always leave out. So there has to be some sort of attraction problem. And I try to get them to understand that it might be a marketing issue. It's like, let's assume that you're actually a fantastic product. You're a great guy and any woman would be lucky to have you. Probably not true, but we can start with that premise. It's like, but people aren't buying. Why? Is it an awareness issue? Do people not know that your product exists? Like, is it a branding? Are you communicating with your style, with your presence, with your tone? Kind of the lifestyle and the relationship that you're potentially offering. Like these are behaviors. These are ways of presenting yourself to the world. And it's not a personal thing. We can tweak some of those things as long as you're not identified with them. And we'll keep playing with the knobs until we see some more interest and success from the opposite sex. It's often also...
So that's your usual clientele, like the guy that struggles to get...
That and older guys who are in difficult and unsatisfying relationships.
So, Ryan, most of your clients are male?
Yeah, I'd say about 80% of my clients are men.
75, yeah, not far off. Yeah,
mostly male?
Mostly male.
Really?
Yeah.
Are men more, it seems to me, like you look at all the things that are online, men seem to be working very, very hard. They have for many centuries. Orion and I talked about this yesterday at lunch, I think, about how men seem to be really focused on trying to understand women and how to get closer to women and get women into their lives. Women don't seem to understand men at all.
Well, the thing that I always say to a married man that comes to me on the phone, I say, your woman's cheating on you. And I know that's a blanket statement, but the moment you are more invested in therapy, the moment you're more invested in saving the marriage than the woman is, something's going on that you're not aware of. And I know that sounds like a really big generalization.
Do you think it's always an affair, though?
Yeah.
Always?
Because especially when they come to me. If it was a different therapist, I can understand. But women that hate my content, if your man is going to a woman that's online, most women would be like, yeah, actually, you know what? Let's get this. Like, I kind of want to see there's a curiosity. And women in general are open to therapy. So when she avoids the session, particularly with me, I'm like, I'm sorry, she's definitely cheating on you or using you for money, one or the other. And why I say this is because when women have a genuine interest in saving their marriage, they're calling up every therapist they know. They're calling up everyone, their pastor. They're really trying. They come on the call and they've got tears in their eyes. They really want to make it work. When the man is on the call and he's like, I tried to convince her she doesn't want to be on therapy, or she came to 1 or 2 sessions and then she stopped. And I said, the reason why she stopped is because she knows she's going to go to that therapy session and lie. There's something she's hiding. She doesn't want the therapist to figure out, and you're not going to figure out. So she sees the whole process as a waste of money. But if she was genuine, she would want to be in that session. So when people avoid the therapy session or say it's a complete waste of money, particularly when the woman does it, it's because it's a waste of money because she knows there's something she's going on behind the back of everybody in that session that makes the therapy session a waste of time, because there's nothing that she can discuss that's honest in that session. And I know that sounds really negative, but that has been, and every time I say this to a man, every time I'm like, I think she's cheating on you. That's why she's not, this doesn't make sense. Why would you be here and she's not here? And why would she avoid it? Or why would she bring up such old things? Like, how is this relevant? And he's like, no, she would never. That's their mantra. No, she would never. They come back to me within 3 months. I give it 3 months and I plant the seed, but they come back to me in 3 months and they said, do you remember me? You said that my wife was cheating. I'm like, did you find out? They're like, yeah, she was. Because I can tell by that dynamic in itself that she's doing up to something. Is that terrible? Do you ever find that or no?
Well, I don't do couples. I just do individuals.
Got it. Yeah.
I find it's hard enough to tell the truth to one person in a way that he or she can hear, and it's almost impossible to do that to two people at the same time.
I'm such a bitch. You're such a nicer person than I am in my sessions.
It's about effectiveness. I just can't be as effective with two people. And also, in traditional couples therapy, the relationship is the client, not the individuals involved. And I think that's like seeing a doctor who's going to try to keep you alive no matter what the quality of life he could offer you as a consequence of his treatment, which is not a doctor I would prefer to visit. Like sometimes the best thing for that relationship is to pull that person aside. It's like, she's never going to fucking change.
Yeah.
This is just who she is. And you're not accepting that. You got to get it through your dumb fucking head. Or he is completely, he doesn't love you. He disrespects you. That's never going to change. You can't cook and be subservient enough. It's like, but you don't do that in couples therapy, even though it might save everybody a lot of time, energy, and money.
Yeah.
Because the relationship is the client, not the individuals.
So that makes good sense. We'll close it out on that one. Maybe cover more if you guys are interested in the rest of this. Yeah, I think they got some good sections we'll cover before it gets too long. Anyways, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you found this one interesting. I think they had some nice nuggets there. If you want to see more episodes, subscribe, leave a comment in the section. Therapy, help us in the algorithm. As usual, boys, see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves.